Welcome to the show, and it glows so bright. There are several secret recipes out there in the world. What makes up Coca-Cola? What are the 11 herbs and spices found in Kentucky Fried Chicken? What makes Cinnabon cinnamon rolls so different and unique? I don't know. But there is one source that does have a secret recipe that has been a secret since 1956 and released to the public in 2019. And who has that recipe? Well, two answers. One, the Soviet Union, and two, the Central Intelligence Agency. Yes, the United States CIA. That has intercepted a 1948 recipe from a Soviet military cookbook and then translated it and kept it to themselves as a secret in 1956. So, let's go find out what makes up this Soviet Borsch. Here's the recipe straight up from the cookbook. Borsch. We stew up cut up beets for 30-40 minutes in a closed pot, adding fat, bouillon, tomato paste, vinegar or brine from sauerkraut. We add vinegar to conserve the color of the beets and for giving a sharp taste. To the boiling meat bouillon, we add some fresh cabbage, cut up, and boil for 10-15 minutes. We then put up some cut up potatoes and continue to boil for 10-15 minutes. After this, we put in the stewed beets, sauteed culinary herbs, seasoned the borscht with sauteed flour, laurel leaves, pepper, and salt, and boiled 10 minutes longer. After removing the hot coals from the furnace, we allow the borscht to stand in the pot, with the cover closed for 15 minutes without coming to a boil. There are also some notable variations, such as borscht with sauerkraut and borscht with beet leaves. Borscht made of millet. We're going with borscht with sauerkraut. It says, borscht with sauerkraut is prepared just as borscht with fresh cabbage. The only difference is that the sauerkraut is stewed together with the beets. So within the recipe, we don't know what the exact quantity would be called for or needed, unlike, say, American military recipes. However, it does describe what is to be used. So we're going to go use some laurel leaves. Well, it does count for dill. We're going to go use green onions as a substitute. For our vegetables and tubers, we're going to go use carrots. Normal ones aren't available. We're going to use some baby carrots, potatoes, onions, also fresh cabbage, but for this particular variation, we're going to use sauerkraut, which we have over here. And instead of making bouillon from scratch, which is called for in the recipe, we're going to go use just bouillon cubes. Also, the recipe calls for meat. We're going to go use some roast beef, cross rib stuff, some meat, some sliced beets, which normally fresh ones are used, but we're going to use canned ones because of availability, and I made a mess using the can opener of a German field kit, so I wouldn't recommend that. I will clean up this mess afterwards, and also some tomato paste. Also salt and pepper. The recipe also calls for flour. We're going to go use all-purpose flour for this recipe. Let's go bring our pot to high and put in our entire can of beets, liquid and everything. Put in a can of tomato paste. One bouillon cube, and a splash of vinegar, some water to go and cover all the components. Then we'll cover the pot. Here are some anecdotes I found inside the cookbook. First, to prepare tasty food of good quality, the preparation of tasty food is achieved by strict observance of the rules for the preparation of food, the careful treatment of the food products, the observance of the length or time for boiling and frying, and the sequence of placing the products in the boiler. The intelligent utilization of food products available and the flavoring substances, laurel leaves, pepper, vinegar, salt, sauteed tubercles, carrots, and others. If, for example, we put laurel leaves and pepper into the soup while cooking, a long time before serving of the food, the tasty aromatic substances contained in these condiments
and giving them to an agreeable odor and good taste will evaporate, and the food will not have the good taste it would not have had. Hence, condiments should not be put until 5 to 10 minutes before the soup is done. One thing to know is that for the preparation of potatoes, there is a section called Dressing of Potatoes and Vegetables. Before we issue potatoes and vegetables from the warehouse to the kitchen, we should sort them and remove the spoiled potatoes or vegetables as well as the trash and pieces of dirt. It is forbidden to issue the kitchen potatoes or other vegetables which have not been sorted and the spoiled ones removed, because this way we increase the waste and reduce the actual amount of food issued. The waste from potatoes should not exceed, from fall up to 1st of April, 25% in April to not over 30%, in May and June over 35%, and the waste from young potatoes should not exceed 15%, etc., etc., etc. The best method for peeling potatoes is cleaning with a mechanical potato peeler, because this means reduce the waste and lessen the time of peeling. The description and the construction of the hand potato peeler are given in a circular of the Chief Quartermaster of Armed Forces No. 6, 1946. The peeling of potatoes by hand is permissible only with special fluted knives. As a result of the special construction of the fluted knife, the thickness of the part cut off does not exceed 1 millimeter. We are forbidden to peel potatoes with the ordinary kitchen knives. Now that our pot has been reaching a boiling point, let's go and prepare our vegetables for sautéing. And here we have potatoes and carrots. Let's take some oil or fat and put it inside of a pan and heat it up at high heat, and then we'll go cut our vegetables. Looking further inside of the manual, it seems to be a holistic and complete way of instructions for field kitchen officers, such as tools needed for the kitchen, quantities needed, man hours needed to prepare vegetables and meats, various recipes of traditional Russian cuisine, as well as stuff from foraged or improvised ingredients, various tips on field hygiene, field cooking, and several others. That is quite extensive and great for logistics of a large group. This sort of information would be applied for, say, the Soviet Army, various satellites, or training of Soviet-backed militias. It turns out I'm initially wrong. It turns out for the preparation of borscht for a single man, there are 100 grams needed for cabbage, 150 grams needed for potatoes, 100 grams of beets, 15 grams of carrots for one man, and 10 grams of onions for one man, or scaled up to 500 men. Also has a timetable for cleaning the vegetables, and for 500 men's worth of vegetables, one man needs to spend 46 hours of cleaning. This means that I'm probably very incompetent at this, and if I actually were in the Red Army, I'll be shot. Okay, so now that my pan is heated, I'll go put in my vegetables of carrots and potatoes inside, and then I'll go cut up onions and beef and throw it in later. My idea is that with sauteed vegetables, it would take a little longer to cook, and the beef to turn brown and have the onions be a bit caramelized, not so much. Even further, I'll add a few onions inside. While the vegetables are sauteing, I'll go cut my beef last on a cutting board. This will prevent contamination. After the beets have been boiling for about 40 minutes, I'll go throw in the sauteed vegetables, clear out the pan. I'll also put in sauerkraut. And then throw in the cut up beef, some onions, as well as salt and pepper. The idea here is to brown them. Ah, darn it. I forgot to go and saute some flour using some fat. So after I did that, forgot to hit record and put that in there for having it be a nice roux color, like a nice golden color. Kind of like a gravy almost. I then threw that also in the pot. Threw in the remaining bay leaves, more salt and pepper, and let the pot boil for 10 more minutes longer. I turn off the heat, let it rest for 15 minutes, and here I'm ready to serve.
So while our borscht is cooking, what is the history of borscht? Well, borscht is a traditional Ukrainian dish going as far back as the 1500s. Well, now that we have our borscht being prepared and cooking, what is the history of borscht? Well, borscht is a traditional Ukrainian dish that has been documented as far back as the 1500s, if not earlier. However, the ingredients found in borscht are completely different to the borscht we find today, where in today's borscht we'd have ingredients such as tomatoes and potatoes. Those weren't European staples until the discovery and bring back of these since the Columbian exchange, when Christopher Columbus went from Europe to the Americas and brought back a whole bunch of stuff. So tomatoes, potatoes, squash, turkey, tobacco, all sorts of different things. Meanwhile, going back further into the future, with the incorporation and annexation of Ukraine into the Soviet Union, a lot of this sort of culture has been homogenized, such as the banning of the Ukrainian language in many instances, as well as having everything be in Russian and everything be centrally planned in terms of the education system, the economy, and even the cookbooks. And one of the earliest cookbooks to be brought out to the Soviet people was in the 1930s, colloquially called The Book, or The Book of Tasty Recipes. I'll put down the full video, the full title of the book down here, and also a link to the book, if possible, in the video description. But to not get too sidetracked, this 1930s cookbook would have a lot of recipes that are standardized and brought throughout a wide area of the Soviet Union. And the most popular dish, or one of the most popular dishes, was Ukrainian borscht, made with tomato sauce, red beets, and potatoes. Meanwhile, later on in later editions of the book, and military field cooking manuals within the Soviet Union, such as in 1948, it has led to a recipe book and instructions for Soviet military field cooks. Yet, in 1956, when the Cold War was intensifying after World War II, the world was split between the East and the West. And that was the start of the Cold War. But the CIA decided in its own wisdom to intercept this cookbook and keep it as a secret. And while, thanks to Muckrock in 2019, you can find this recipe today on their website, yet many of these pages and stuff like that inside of the CIA released document remains redacted. For what sort of reasons, why the CIA kept this sort of recipe book secret and how they got it, I don't know. But the food is quite delicious.
And there we go. Borscht from a secret CIA interception of a secret Soviet recipe. I'll put it in a Soviet mess tin pan, and I'll go top it off with sour cream and green onions. Bon appetit!
Here we go. Borsch from the CIA's intercepted Soviet military recipe. Here we go. Borsch from the CIA's intercepted. Here we go. Borsch with sauerkraut. Here we go. Borsch with sauerkraut. And there we go. Borsch with sauerkraut. Let's give it a try. It's pretty good. Sauteing the vegetables really adds a lot to the flavor of this, even though this is made with very basic ingredients. Nothing tastes raw, nothing tastes overcooked either. And while I'm not able to fit it inside of a Soviet field pot, doing it with an ordinary kitchen pot does the trick. I would recommend you try it. It's pretty good. Now, if the CIA has intercepted this sort of thing and released it to the public after decades of it being a secret, what else do they have that is available? What sort of secret recipes do they have? Now, if you did enjoy this video and learn something today, give it a like. Hit that like button. If you don't, dislike it. Comment down below what you think. If you don't, put something down there. Read the video description, and if you'd like to see more content just like this, go and subscribe. If you'd like to support me, go ahead and share this video and others just like this, as well as subscribing a little bit to my Ko-fi. Once I reach YouTube partnership eligibility, I'll go and create a subscribe star. And no, I'm not going to go start one now. I think it's a bit too early for that. I think just meeting monetization through YouTube's metrics would be a good benchmark. Don't want to just like make it a quick cash grab, you know? But yeah, I wonder what else does the CIA have for secret recipes. Thanks for watching.